Hello? I think it's working. Let me just test. I think it's working. Let me just test. Yes. Seems to be fun. So yes, my plan is to find out how everyone's doing, if anyone is there. I just felt like doing this because I've been gone for for a while, which is a long story. Not really so much long, but just annoying. And that is because I was stuck without internet from the start of July for 2.5 months. So yeah, so I didn't have any kind of internet for 2.5 months from the start of July, whole of July, August, and then it got back in mid-September. So yeah, so that's kind of why I've been gone. I was just kind of surviving and trying to do work on my mobile data connection, which was really annoying and very expensive as well, because we're working remotely, so we have to obviously be connected at all times. Especially all the meetings, that was killing me, man. It was so expensive. But anyway, how's everyone doing? If anyone is there, can't really see. I don't know how this stuff works. But yeah, drop messages and let us know how everyone's doing. I hope the music is not too loud or anything like that. I can bring it down pretty easily. Yeah. Otherwise, just chilling. Just chilling. I took the day off today because yesterday we had a public holiday in South Africa, which was really nice. So we get basically a 4-day weekend if you take today off as well, which I really needed. I really needed a break because yeah, work was just getting a bit too much. Where it's just kind of the same stuff every day, you know, and you need to just do something a bit different and change it up. But yes, so I've got quite a few ideas for videos, as you can imagine, during those 2 months. My problem is normally that I don't have ideas of stuff that I want to do. So yeah, I had some time during those 2.5 months to try and think about some ideas. So I've got a few things that I want to prepare for video ideas, and I've got some comments as well from people asking stuff. A lot of what they ask I don't really know straight away, so I'll have to like research it and maybe get back to them or make a video on it. We'll have to see. But yeah, so one of the things I wanted to do is Kotlin Coroutines, because I haven't really touched on like Kotlin specific stuff or even coroutines at all, even though I really love it. I love everything about Kotlin. It's amazing. So much better than Java. And yeah, I use it in my own projects all the time, of course. I've even got projects that are not Android that I still choose to use Kotlin because it's just awesome. And also, of course, at work, we use it as well. So I thought it was about time to try and get something going on that front. So this video, or the stream, also I'm going to edit the stream into like a proper YouTube video format later on. So if you have any questions or any messages like that, it might end up on the video. Not that that's really crazy, but yeah. So I'll edit it down to a nice short YouTube video, so you can check that out later if you're interested in that. I wanted to say something else. What was it? Oh, so I'm going to be focusing on sort of basics of coroutines. Like basically what are they, and how do they differ from our normal async tasks and stuff like that, and just how awesome it is to use them, and how much less code it is, and things like that. So hopefully it'll be useful to some people. I think by now a lot of us have already tried it out, but maybe if you haven't, sorry, I just put my phone on silent. If you haven't tried it out yet, maybe you've been too scared, or maybe there's a lot of crazy terms and stuff, which might be confusing. I know that definitely confused me at some point. Like, you have all these different like coroutine dispatches and contexts and coroutine scopes, and like, what is even going on here? There's so many lambdas all over the place, and it can get quite a lot to take in, and maybe that just made you sad and yeah, not too keen to try it out. But yeah, I wanted to just basically show off how we can do it from the simplest sort of standpoint, and then build it up to fit into the architecture of like MVVM and things like that. Sorry. Yeah, I see we have a few viewers. Does anyone want to drop a message or anything? I feel like I'm talking to a wall. Alright, so also if the quality is not great, then just let me know, but I've been doing some testing, so I think you should be able to see things. Like, it's hopefully not going to be too blurry. Anywho, so what I've got here in my project window is I've got my YouTube Android project that is on GitHub. So you can check that out if you want to. So you can see all these different modules that I've been working on. I hope you can see. Might be a bit too small, but I've got stuff like Dagger 2, data binding, recycler views, navigation. There's quite a few different navigation samples, like bottom nav and nav draw, and room, of course, and then like a basic sort of view model sample. So I'm just thinking of adding a new module in here that's going to be just showing off some coroutine specific things, because I don't want to overcrowd some of these modules and make them do more than one thing. Like if I put it in the view model stuff, suddenly there's coroutines, but you just want to learn about view model. So I don't think that is the right idea. So I think it would be good to split it up. Ah, Cleo, yes, how's it, man? Are you doing well? Hope you're having a good time. Happy Heritage Day yesterday. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope you took today off as well. I know you need a break. So I'm just gonna go and create a new module here. How do you do that again? New module. Okay, pretty straightforward. Android Light, and I know light theme is like really not great, but I've been told it's easier to see on videos and things like that. So yeah, I've just decided to go with it. Just call it Coroutines. Hopefully I can spell properly. Package name, really, you can't guess it from the other modules. I can't remember what. Something like that. Kotlin, of course, min API. I think I made it 21 recently. Oh yeah, and obviously I'm streaming, so that makes my computer, that takes up a lot of resources, and now I'm doing Gradle at the same time, so I might have a bit of a meltdown here, so let's just hope that doesn't happen. What are you doing here? Okay, syncing a whole lot of stuff. Okay, I probably need to sync properly for it to show up. We can just use project view. Or not? What's happening? Oh, what? No man, I didn't want it to be a module in the app module. That's stupid. Okay, do it manually then. Yeah, but as we know, Android stuff is mostly waiting for Gradle. That is a lot about what life is these days. I can't remember. It's been such a long time since I did this. I don't know what's happening. Settings are Gradle and make sure. No, you see, that's not what we want. So I'm just going to add a new one here. Coroutines. Probably get some errors now, but we'll figure it out. Wow, hey guys, how's it going? Mr. Patel, thank you very much. Hope you're having a good Friday. And hi from Belarus. Wow, that's amazing. That's insane. And that's what one of the things I really like about doing YouTube and stuff, even though I'm not like super famous, but just being able to get to people all over the world is crazy. Yeah, and from India, yeah. Thanks for joining, guys. Appreciate it. If you have any questions about any, well, not that obviously I don't know everything, but if you want to chat about any Android stuff, not just coroutines, just let me know, and I'll see what I can offer there. Okay, but I think it's synced now, so let's just see what we have here. I prefer Android view, honestly. Okay, so we should just have an empty thing. I'm going to delete. Oh, maybe I'll leave it actually. Okay, let's open the build script. Sorry, I know I'm not doing the coroutine stuff yet. I'm just trying to make it fit into the rest of the project that I have set up here. But we're almost there, so I'm just trying to make sure that these two files are kind of the same. So I can just do this, I think, and get rid of a lot of this other stuff, just to simplify it. I upgraded the project recently to target Android 30. Not that it really matters, because it's just a little demo app, but yeah, that was something. So I think I had to add a dependency on this other framework module that I had. I don't know if I'll need anything else actually, because so I have this what I called a framework module, which is one that all the other demo modules use as well. And in this framework module has a lot of API dependencies. And what this API dependency is, it exposes this dependency to any modules that use this one. So as you can see, I've already got coroutines here, and it means any module that uses the framework module will also have access to the coroutines library and all the code there. All good. Your side, excited for the coroutine stuff? Yeah, awesome, man. Hopefully I can shed some light. Have any of you guys used it before? How much have you used it? And do you like it or do you not like it? Do you prefer Java with its async tasks? And I'll be honest, I know there's also RX Java and that kind of stuff, which allows you to do a lot of background work in a nice reactive fashion, but I've not really used it that much, so I can't comment from that point of view. So sorry if you're looking for a comparison between those two. Yeah, I've not really used RX that much, so I'm sure there are much other better resources that can help you with that. Okay, so I think it's actually syncing fine, which is probably a first. So I'm just going to add it as a dependency on my app module, coroutine, so that the app then can access whatever stuff I put in there. RX Java sect cultist. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Yeah, so I'm not going to comment anything on RX Java because I don't know much about it. So maybe you can advise us on sort of pros and cons, maybe about coroutines and RX. I suppose they are kind of two different like paradigms almost, reactive and coroutines. Okay, so that's done. So now if I add, what should we do in the sample, in the coroutine sample? Like, because in these other ones I often show a list of Pokemon, that kind of stuff, and I don't know if that's getting a bit boring now. Maybe we can do something different in the coroutines one. But let's just create an activity to start off with. I can't spell. can rename all this stuff later. And just let me know if the text size is too small or you can't read it or something, and I will adjust it accordingly. But just make a new activity that extends that thing and add it to the manifest. Alt-enter is always your friend, by the way. Like you saw, I alt-entered on the activity to add it to the manifest, which is pretty nice. And then you can go to it from over here and you can check that's okay, cool. What is that? How did that get there? It wasn't me. But it added to the manifest just with an alt-enter, which is pretty cool. So I'm gonna go back to my main activity. I've honestly forgotten everything that I've done here. But okay, so the demo app looks like this. It just starts up with a list of all the different demos in the app, and then you basically choose which one you want to go into. So I'm going to add a new one for coroutines, which will then navigate to this activity I just created. Okay, you never use anything but RX, so you can't compare. Okay, so we've got two different sites here, so you had to get an idea of coroutines. Okay, cool. Well, hopefully I can give you a nice idea of what it's like, and you can sort of decide for yourself which one you want to go with. Okay, so I have a Recyclerview Adapter. What do I do here? Yes, that's the one I'm looking for. So I'm just going to add a new string resources and stuff. So annoying. Can't we just hard code our strings all the time? So I'm going to add a new thing into a new item into my list. Coroutines activity. Nice. And hopefully now it will show up when I build. And is the music alright, by the way? Hopefully it's not too loud. It seems to be at the right level from what I can tell, but just let me know. Come on, come on. There we go. Okay, cool. So we have a coroutines entry up here. And when I click on it, it just shows this blank activity, which is good because I didn't add any layouts yet. Cool, cool. So how should we do this? I kind of wanted to show like a comparison basically, where if you had, for example, an async task, and how does it differ now if you're using coroutines. I'm just gonna bring the music down for me actually. Okay, cool. Coroutines. Alright, so the one thing I really like about, well, one of the things I really like about coroutines is it's easy to see what is happening. But I'll show you now. But it's easy to see because it's all like just in a function, and you can see what is happening from sort of top to bottom, right? You fetch the data and then you can just basically use it without having to do any crazy like doing background and on post execute, and then stuff is kind of all over the place. It's all in these different methods and you have to know how it works. And I know that a lot of people will probably try to add abstractions on that to make it easier. I know we've done that at our company, and that's great because it makes it simpler where you don't have to duplicate so much code. But then it also has the drawback of, again, just being really almost like spaghetti code where it's just all over the place and you can't just follow it in a logical order. So coroutines does definitely help with that. So let's see how we can do it. So I'm just gonna, for now I'm gonna put it all in one file just so it's easier to read. But I'm gonna make an async task. Async task, and we know it's now deprecated as of API 30, which is great news if you ask me. But async task, it takes 3 type arguments, because that's just super great. Parameters, like what does the task take in, So I'm just going to make it take in a string just for demo's sake. Progress, I don't really care about, and a result. What should the result be? Another string, we can always change it. So then we can just implement the method, and of course we have our lovely do in background method, which will be called from another thread, and it allows you to just do your long running task. Right, if we go to the declaration of the method, you can see it has @worker thread, meaning it will be called from the background. But this isn't an async task tutorial, so who really cares about that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this lovely sleep in here, which is definitely very, very safe, and you should always put in your code. Please don't do that. But I'm just going to say sleep for maybe 2 seconds, and then I'm going to return a result. It just says like hello, and then it just prints out the parameters that it got in. I don't know how that's going to look. It might print it out all weirdly. Does it have like a join to string or something, or some other string method? Yeah, join to string, nice. Okay, so it's just gonna wait 2 seconds and then return a message based on what we passed in as an argument. So how we could use that is we can say on create, I can't see, why does it make it so small? No, come on, doesn't let me expand. Okay, there we go. I want that on create method. So I'm just gonna new up my task and say execute. Geez, they deprecated every method as well. So in here I can say hello Android or something like that. And what that will do is it will do in background, have the sleep, and then we'll need to also override on post execute. Now this is the method that will be called on the main thread, right? It's got the main thread annotation when the computation is done. So for now, I'll just say sout. I don't know how many people know this, by the way. There's a nice little shortcut where you type sout, as in like a shortcut for system.out, like that. And you can see there's a few different suggestions here. Sout, just print system out, and then there's a formatted one, and function parameter names, and then like a variable one. So you can just type sout and then tab, and it will replace it with that. And it replaces it with the appropriate Java one as well. Oh, sorry, I only saw now y underscore after 2 in 2000. It's just easier to read. Because if you have bigger numbers, it's just like a separator basically. There's literally no difference between that and that. If you were to remove it, it's just easier because you can sort of group the thousands units. So if you were doing something like this, it's kind of a bit easier to see what that number actually is, right? If it was, if it's separated with the underscore. Again, there's literally no difference at runtime. It's just to see. Okay, so on post execute is called on the main thread, and then I'm just gonna print out the result like that. So let's just try and run this. And for now, I'm gonna open it up in logcat so we can see what's happening here. System.out, okay. Hopefully this is visible here. But I'm just gonna go to my emulator, and when I open the coroutines thing, it should wait 2 seconds, and then we'll see the message. So yeah, there we go. So we just have the system.out, and it says hello Android with the stuff we passed in. Pretty straightforward, and yeah, that's just how async tasks work. So where this gets super complicated is, right now it's pretty easy, but often on post execute, you need to actually do something useful. For example, updating the UI, right? You do a task to fetch some data, and then you show it on the UI. That's like, because it's doing Android, it's a front-end thing. So you need to actually interact with the UI here, but we don't have access to it because it's just an outer class. We can't access the activity from here. Okay, actually I just want to make a layout for this so we can easily see it in the UI instead of having to use the logs the whole time. Coroutines activity. Alt enter. What? Create layout file. Yes. Okay, why can't you just create it for me? Please stand by, we're having some technical issues. Source main res. Is that how you do it? Activity coroutines. So in here, I'm just gonna like chuck a text view, and I'm just gonna, in this text view, I'm gonna put basically the result. So if it stops freezing, that would be good. I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna give it the ID of coroutines result, like that, and then just say tools text, so we can preview it in the editor. Hello world, of course, and just give it some padding. Nope, padding, default padding. Here we go, and yeah, that should be fine. You can see on the side that it will just be a normal text view. And I don't know if you've seen this before, but the app compat activity class, you can pass it in a layout resource in its constructor. And that basically means you don't need to call set content view in onCreate now. You just call that constructor with the layout resource, which is pretty nice because it cleans it up a bit. But even more useful, you can also do that in fragments, right? The fragment class, you can pass in the layout resource, and it means you don't have to implement onCreate view at all. You just pass it the resource and it will do it for you. Okay, but anyway, so also nice with Kotlin is, why is it highlighting that? You can just write the ID of the view directly. So I've got coroutines result, so I can say coroutines result, and I can just set it some text like that, which is really, really awesome. I think it's the Kotlin Android extensions is what they call it. So, whoops. And let's just double check that everything is working fine. There we go, so it just says loading, but obviously it's not going to change yet because it's still logging to the console. Alright, so what I want to do now is I want to just change this text to the result that we get in the async task, which should be pretty straightforward. But the problem is in this task we don't have access to the view because it's a standalone thing. So then what you end up doing is you just create listeners, which the task will call once it's done. So I can do something like this, task listener or something, and you have on complete. I know you can use lambdas instead, but it's just for to make it a bit easier to read. So then inside the constructor you can take in the listener, the task listener. And then on post execute, you just invoke the listener, and you'll want to pass it the result as well, like that. Nice. And then all that you have to do is when you create the task, can I not do that? Am I blind? Do I have to do this? Surely I don't have to. Wait, I thought I could. I thought they changed that in Kotlin 1.4. Where you don't have to write this anymore. You can just use the brackets. Did I not upgrade to the right Kotlin version or something? Yeah, I'm on 1.4.10. Okay, I don't know. Apparently I don't know the stuff as well as I thought I did, but moving on anyway. So then this is called when we get the result back. Oh, I think I had to write fun interface, right? Yeah, there we go. Okay, I'm just being stupid. Yeah, that's what I was expecting. Sorry about that. I look like an idiot now. But then we can just have a lambda, which gets the result back, and then I can say that thing, I can just set its text now to the result that we get. So let's try that out. Nice and quick to build. This is cool. And there we go. Nice. Okay, so that works. I don't know why I'm getting happy about writing stupid async tasks. But as you can see now, this is adding a lot of extra complexity because the code is in a few different places, right? You have this listener thing, and do in background, and post execute, and then it all sort of comes together to allow you to update the UI like this. But this gets even more super complicated, which I probably won't write out now. When you need to have a good architecture, obviously MVVM. So you would definitely want to have a view model for this, and then the view model is responsible for fetching the data from a repository. Then the view model will update the UI. And to make that testable, we will need to somehow mock out what the task is doing in the view model. So to that extent, we'll have some kind of task factory. So I can say demo task factory. I'm trying to write without looking here. And then you have a create task method, which you then return your demo task like that. So you would just obviously call the constructor there, and you'll need to take in the progress listener. And then in your view models constructor, it's probably easier to just show. In my constructor, because dependency injection is good, we will take in that task factory. Task factory, whatever, and demo task factory. And then when we need to fetch the data, we'll say task factory.createTask.execute, like that. And while this is quite annoying, it makes testing really easy, because when we testing this view model, we can just pass in a mock task factory, and we can then return a mock task and make it return whatever data we need to make testing easy. Because then if the task was calling a repo, you wouldn't have to mock out the repo and everything as well. You just mock out the task itself, which is good because it allows it to be tested, and testing is good, believe it or not. But this gets super complicated, and I've worked on code where there's just so many classes involved in just trying to do some background work, where we have an interface for the task factory, and then you have the task factory itself, and then the task factory returns the task, and then the view model takes in the task factory interface, and then there's also generics involved, and it's like you have to spend half an hour just figuring out how it works before you can start making your changes. Okay, but anyway, I hope I've made that point clearer, because yeah, async tasks, I've done my fair share, and it's time for me to move on from them. Now where coroutines comes in, it's like this. So I'm going to do it in the activity, but you really shouldn't. So I think they have a lifecycle. Boy, I think I need to add some more dependencies. But the core sort of concepts in coroutines is you have your coroutine context, is what they call it, and what that is, it basically is, where is this code running? Is it running on the main thread, or is it running on a background thread? So that is what a coroutine context is. And then you have a coroutine scope, which is basically how long does the work last. And the most typical example of that is you have a coroutine scope that is tied to an activity. So once the activity dies, that scope is cancelled, meaning the work that it's doing just stops. And this is great because at least I have dealt with a lot of crashes that happen when there's still an async task running in the background, and the user closes the activity, but the task carries on, and then on post execute tries to update the UI, but the UI doesn't exist anymore, so it just crashes. Right? I've had so many of those that I've dealt with, and it's just really annoying. But when you use the coroutine scope, the work gets cancelled when the activity dies, meaning you don't have to worry about updating the UI when it shouldn't, because the work, as I say, will just get cancelled, which is really amazing, and it just makes it a lot easier because you don't have to deal with that lifecycle stuff anymore. I don't know if there's any questions at the moment or anything someone wants to chat about. I'm really thirsty for some reason. So what this looks like is, okay, the most basic example that they have everywhere is you use this global scope object, which this is discouraged from using, so please don't use this in your code. I'm just doing it for an example here. So you say global scope.launch, like that. Now what this is doing is it's basically the same as switching to a new thread. It's switching to a background thread because this global scope is just tied to a background context. So it's going to switch to the background context over here and launch you a new coroutine for you to work in. And then it's going to carry on asynchronously here. So what I can do is I can just print a message that says coroutine has launched, like that. And inside the coroutine, I'm going to delay, which is the same as sleeping on the other threads, like that. Delay for 2 seconds, and then I'm going to print out finished delaying. So what this will do is it will launch a thread and then carry on, and it will print this message first. Then after 2 seconds, it will print this finished delaying one. So let's just do that. I'm going to take out this async task thing for now because it makes me sad. And just open logcat again. Let's just build that. So this is basically the most simple example you'll see whenever you look up coroutines, is they have a global scope and then you just delay for 2 seconds and print out some messages. So let's see, when I click on this, it'll immediately say coroutine has launched. Nice. And then after 2 seconds, finish delaying. Awesome. So this is, as I said, switching to a new thread, and then it carries on with this. And then this new thread will delay for 2 seconds and then just print out that message. Pretty straightforward, I think. But what's nice about this is the coroutine context that I've mentioned, and being able to switch contexts really easy, right? Here, if I print out another message, I'm on current thread. So let's just print out the name of the thread, get rid of that. So the main issue here now is that we've done the work, so we fetched whatever data there was, but we are not on the main thread now, which will obviously cause a problem, right? I'm on default dispatcher, some coroutines thread. So that means over here we can't update the UI because it will crash. Let's just try to do that and see what happens. Finished working, something like that. At least I think it should crash, because you're supposed to only touch the UI from the main thread. What? You can update it from the background? Since when? Well, I feel stupid. Okay. Does anyone know anything about that? And even you can call set text from a background thread? Okay, anyway. You're still supposed to only update the UI from the main thread. I'm sure a lot of other stuff will fail if you don't. Now what we can do is when we are inside a launch block like this, we can say with context. And this takes in the context that you want to switch to. So dispatchers.main like this. So what we're doing now is we're saying, I'm doing my long running task over here on the background context, and then now I'm switching to main context, which is basically the main thread. So if I were to again print out the current thread's name, it should now print out the main thread that it has switched to. So let's see. Yeah, there we go. It's on the main thread now. So here it would be safe to go and update the UI. And this is already really easy to do because where the async task, if I just minimize this, the async task, you needed to override different methods altogether to do stuff in the background and then on the main thread. Whereas now it's just sort of in one function and it's all, what's the word I'm looking for? Linear and synchronous. It's just in a row, so you can see what's happening. Much easier to work with, I think. But the important thing to note is that, right, we're just switching context here. We're not launching a new thread. We still only launched one thread at the top, and as it carries on, we are staying on that same coroutine. We're not launching a new one. So if I were to do something like this, where I say on main, for example, and then no, not what I'm looking for. And then I were to, no, what is this? Delay, come on. And I delay for a second, and I say back on background. It sounds weird, but wait, previously it launched the coroutine and then it immediately carried on after this block over here. Now it's still on the same coroutine, so it's gonna, let me just get rid of that delay. So it's gonna say that it's on main, and then it's gonna wait for a second, and then it will say that it's back on the background thread. And this, you'll see, is very powerful for what I showed just now, because it makes life a lot easier. Right, so it says on main, waits for a second, prints back on background. Now let's just see that again, maybe. On main, back on background, right? It's carrying on and it's just switching context, but it's not launching new threads. I hope that is, I've explained that well. And this with context thing is something that you should use quite a lot, because again, it's better if I just show you. So I've got a view model here, which is cool, but I'm just going to delete all this task stuff, and I'm going to create a repository quickly. Repo, right? Because the recommended pattern is you have your activity, your view model, and your repository. The view model gets the data from the repository and then updates the UI. So that's basically what I want to try and reflect here. So I'm just going to create a method in my repo that's fetch data, whatever, and it returns a string. And we'll just say hello Android is the string that we're going to return. So you can assume that this will be a service call inside here. This is some kind of service call where we're downloading the data, and it might take a few seconds to complete. So what I would do is I will just say thread sleep again for 2 seconds, right? Just to emulate a long-running service call that comes back and then eventually will return some data to us. Then inside the view model, repo. By the way, please don't do this. You need to use dependency injection, so you should inject a repo into the constructor. So when you're testing, you can use mocks, because that's much better for testing. But for now, I just want to do the quick and dirty approach. So when the view model is created, I am just going to say repo.fetchData, right? And I will have some live data here that's going to update the UI. So I'll just say fetch the data, and then we say result, set the data like that. And let me just clean this up as well. Then in here, I'm just going to have a view model field. Coroutines view model. Again, you should use dependency injection, but that's a whole nother topic. So here I will say, I think this should actually be a lazy, sorry, because we don't want it to fetch data as soon as the thing is created. Anyway, so I'm going to say viewModel.result.observe, observing this thing, and then I'm going to say coroutines result.setText to the result that we get back. Right, this is basically the almost the recommended architecture plus dependency injection. But the problem is that this is happening on the main thread here, right? So it's going to freeze the app while the service call is happening, and for 2 seconds, and then it will carry on. And you'll more than likely get a network on main thread exception if you are actually doing a service call. I won't in this case because I just have asleep. But again, this is bad, so we need to switch to a background thread over here to do the actual work in. And a simple approach would be, this should also extend the viewModel class like that. And this should also, do I have by viewModels? Okay, I need to add some dependencies quickly. Yes, all of this stuff, please. I'll show you now. If you haven't used these dependencies, by the way, they are amazing. I think these ones specifically, the KTX ones for live data and viewModel, because it makes it so much easier from Kotlin code. Now, I hope I have access to this. Oh wait, no, I need to. Sorry, I need to say activate. Oh, come on. Do I not have? Yeah. Oh wait, that's the fragment. 1 second. I'm missing a crucial dependency in this project. So let me just get it. It's the activity KTX one, which is where the method that I'm looking for lives. This is very professional. So in my dependencies, I'm going to add this to one, the activity KTX dependency, and sync up. It's very quiet out there. Come on, what is happening? Stop freezing. Now, okay, finally I can import this. Sorry, that was really bad. Oh, now I need to change the bytecode. Oh, this is never ending. Sorry, almost there. This is what I need to generate bytecode targeting Java 1.8. Okay, finally. Sorry, that was way overcomplicated. But I now have a viewModel field. Why didn't it optimize imports? A viewModel field which we initialize with this viewModels delegate thingy. And then we observe the result data and just set the text. Then in the repo, what we needed to do was we need to switch to a background context here. So we could say global scope dot launch. Remember, global scope is discouraged, so please don't actually use this. But now we in a background context here and fetch the data from the repo. And this will now need to be post value because I'm calling it from the background. But now this will hopefully update our UI after 2 seconds with that message. Already this is a lot simpler, I think, because again, there's no async task with separate methods that you override and task factories and interfaces. It's just a method call, so you can see what's happening. Right, so we wait 2 seconds and then we see the message, which is awesome. So that is working. But this can be improved even further, because why should we have to worry about switching to the background context in the viewModel, right? It's the repo that that it's doing the background work. So maybe it can take care of the switching. And how we can do that is, what if we could just say with context in here, dispatchers. Okay, so we have a few different dispatchers that we can use. We have the main one, which is obviously main thread. And there is this default one, which they recommend for CPU intensive stuff, like if you're doing a lot of calculations. And they have an IO one, which is recommended for service calls. I think this will probably be the most common one in the Android world. So what if I just say now that I am switching to this IO coroutine, the background basically, and I'm doing my work in here. Now this will need to switch to delay, because delay should be used in coroutine stuff. And then I'll say I want to return the result of with context, which will be the string. But the problem is now is that we can only call this with context from another suspending function. And what that means basically is we just need to say suspend. We need to add that suspend modifier onto this repo function. And this suspend modifier literally just says that this function will call other coroutines. It just allows them to do some magic on the compiler side, whatever stuff. But you only ever need to add the suspend modifier if you are calling other suspend functions. So just remember that as a general rule there. And now this is great because calling this coroutines or this repo method will automatically switch to the background for us, which is great because now I don't need to pollute the view model with that. So what I can actually do here is I don't need to say global scope anymore, but I can say view model scope dot launch. And this view model scope you can have access to when you extend this base view model from the Android stuff. So you just extend that class and then you can write view model scope dot launch. But I think you need to have, up here at the top, you need to have this lifecycle view model KTX dependency, because that's where it lives. So make sure you have that, and then you'll be able to say view model scope dot launch. But if we just take a look at this, actually, at this declaration, you can see that it says this scope is bound to dispatchers.main immediate, whatever. So it means that when you say launch on view model scope, it will launch on the main thread, which might be a bit weird because it's like I'm kind of starting a new coroutine, but I'm still on the main thread. So it's a bit of a strange thing if you haven't used it before, but you'll see why that's awesome, because now I am calling the repo method, and then the repo method itself is switching to background over here. So this could then change back to set value because it's called on the main thread. And I'll just print out a message here called from, and I'll print out the thread's name. So you can see that it's being called from the main thread, and let's just run that and give it a try. By the way, I have a Twitter account if anyone's interested in that. Hopefully the bot should recognize that command. Yeah, there we go. Not that I'm really active on there yet, but I probably should start posting stuff, so if you're interested. Okay, so coroutines, and we see it says called from main, which is awesome. So when you say view model scope dot launch, you're still on the main thread, so keep that in mind. But now, luckily, we aren't like polluting this with switching to the other thread, because that's done in the repo. But what you can do is this launch thing has another argument where you can actually pass in the coroutine context into launch. So if you wanted to, you can say view model scope dot launch, but I want to be on dispatchers.io. Whoops. And now this will probably crash because I'm not calling post value. But we'll just see the log output that says called from. Yeah, there we go, it crashed, but it says called from default dispatcher worker and not main anymore. So you can say launch, and you can give it the specific context that you want it to launch on. But when you're in a view model, all right, and this also works for any scope that you call launch on, you can give it the context in here. And you can, of course, define your own scopes and your own dispatches and all crazy stuff like that, but most of the time you don't really need to. And in view models, I strongly recommend not doing that, where you just should work on the main thread here, and then your repository will switch to the background like that. So I hope that kind of makes sense. Yeah, so I think that is the majority of what I wanted to show. If there's anything that I'm missing, please do let me know. I'm just trying to think of something else. Because I will admit that I kind of found out this little trick fairly recently of doing the switch context in the repo. And what it looked like before is you would have the exact what I had here. You would say dispatches.io, where you're saying I'm launching on the background thread, and then you would do your work. And then you would have to switch back to the main over here when you wanted to actually update your UI. And this just adds more complexity to the view model, and it's a bit less easy on the eyes, I would say. So do use this view model scope.launch thing, and let the repo do the switching like that. And hopefully the thing shouldn't crash anymore. Two seconds, and then we update it with live data. Very nice. Oh, one thing that I wanted to actually show is the coroutine scope in action, meaning when we go back to, when we press back on the activity to close it, then the scope is cancelled, so we don't actually update the UI. We don't try to update the UI. Yeah, Cleo, the switch context in the repo is neat. It is it's basically saying that it's the repo's concern to switch context like that, so it makes the calling of it a lot easier. Okay, so let's show off that the coroutine scope stuff, that it gets cancelled. So I wanted to just increase the delay in the repo by 5 seconds or so, or 5 seconds rather. And what we can do is we can say over here that I'm going to update the UI. And let's just run that real quick. So after 5 seconds, we'll see this log message. There we go, and then it updates the UI. So what should happen in theory now is, if I press back on the activity, oh, sorry, dying a bit. If I press back on the activity before this thing finishes, it will not call this. I'm hoping. Let's see what happens. Let's just clear the log. So I go there, I start the work, then I press back. And there we go. No more message coming through. Right? I think it's been 5 seconds. So we do not see this message because, again, the scope was cancelled, meaning it just stops all work that was launched within that scope. Right? This view model scope, I probably should have mentioned it, is an extension on the base view model class. And when the view model, I'm just trying to find it. Right, view models have this onCleared method that you can override to clear any resources you used. So inside here, or somewhere over here, they will actually go and cancel all those coroutine scopes that you started, all those jobs. So I think that is really, really awesome and powerful, because you don't have to worry
now about manually trying to stop work when you go back or something. I know at my company, we, before Kotlin and everything, we implemented quite a few mechanisms to prevent this problem, because, as I said, I've had a lot of crashes when you try to update the UI after killing an activity, and it's not fun to deal with. So we implemented a lot of custom stuff, whereas this now, basically, it's just, you get it for free, pretty much. Which just blows my mind. I love Kotlin. Yeah, I don't know if there was anything. Maybe I should show you best practices. So for testing as well, right, you really should use dependency injection. So I'll do it sort of a manual way here, where we, in the constructor, we take in the dispatcher itself. And you can use this interface coroutine context, which is what a dispatcher implements. So over here now I will use that dispatcher to, or that I will switch to that dispatcher over here that I get in through the constructor. And obviously over here now it means that when I create in the view model, I need to pass it in here. But what you should do is use some kind of dependency injection framework to help with that, like Dagger and Hilt, or Coin, or any of those other popular solutions. But I'm not going to do it now because that's just going to complicate it. So what I would do if I was doing it manually is I would say, I would have an internal constructor, which I would call from my tests, and then I would have a convenience constructor here, whoops, which just calls, how do you do it again? Like that. Is that how it's done? Yeah. So I would have this primary constructor, which is not really primary because it's only used in tests. And I'd have the convenience one, which is now what I'm calling in the view model. And it just defaults to this thing. So yeah, the recommended practice from the Android and coroutines people is to inject your dispatcher like this. Let's actually go and write a test just to show you. I think it's the first time I'm doing a test on this channel, which is probably really bad. It's just not my favorite thing to do. What can I say? Yeah, I think I'm missing the JUnit dependencies even, which is great. Test implementation. Is that what it looks like? I think that's what it looks like. Just don't even worry about com.org.junit, just JUnit straight. No problems here. Okay, but there we go, it's not red anymore. Let's just split this. So what you would do if you're testing this repo, you would probably create like a field for it, repo like that, and you would have a setup. I'm pressing on Windows, by the way, Alt Insert to generate something like that. And there's a whole bunch of options. You should really take a look at it, but I am just generating here a setup function. And this is JUnit 4. Very nice, it adds the method for you and the before annotation. So I would say here, I would just new up my repo like that. But now importantly, we would need to pass in some dispatcher that we're going to run the tests on. And the recommended one that they use is this unconfined thing. And if I'm honest, I'm not 100% sure why this differs to just using main in the tests. A coroutine dispatcher that is not confined to any specific thread. Oh, it executes initial continuation in the current call frame. Okay. Yes, anyway, they recommend using this this unconfined thing in tests, and then when you were actually executing your test method, test fetch data, whatever, should return fixed string. And in here you would just call your method, right? But the problem is that this is now a suspend function, which means it has to be called from a coroutine or another suspending function. And to get around this, we can say run blocking like that. It basically means that it will block the thread until this thing finishes, and then it will carry on. Because you don't want the test method to exit before the coroutine stuff is finished. So you say, please block the thread until this method has finished. And inside here you would just get your actual data. Can I not add type show hints? Yeah, there we go. So you would invoke that method and you would have an assertion. The first thing is the expected and then the actual. And the expected string is hello Android, like that. So that is what a basic unit test would be when you are testing something like this, where you're injecting a dispatcher and you have a suspend function that you're wanting to call. So let's just see if I can actually run this and see why not. There we go, running. Hey, and it passes. There we go. Nice. So yeah, that's how you would test it. I think there is also a test coroutine. Let me just find this thing. I think they do have a special testing library as well. Yeah, so let me bring this in. I hope you can see that all right. So they have this separate test artifact, which you can bring into your project. And yeah, it should only be a test dependency. And then you can do all sorts of crazy stuff. This to me seems super annoying, where you have to set the main dispatcher manually. Yes, but the important thing is that they have this run blocking test method. And it can get super complicated if you are if you have delays in your function, which you really shouldn't. You shouldn't have delays in your production code, but you can use test dispatchers and things to help test those delays. But the thing that I would use most is this run blocking test. The problem with run blocking is, if I were to try and make it look a bit neater, I could do this. Whoa, oops, 2 brackets. So I would try to make tests look similar, where there's not too much indentation and this run blocking thing sort of cluttering it up. So you could do something like this. But the problem is that run blocking will return the last value of the statement. And I think assert is a void, so that's fine. But if you had something else that you're ending your test with, then it warns you, because it says, but you're not returning void anymore, you're returning string or whatever else it is. So that's where that run blocking test thing comes in. And let me just add this dependency and we can have a look. But then I'm pretty much done, I think. Open up the build script and we can add this test thing over there. And wait for our friend Gradle. Okay, that wasn't too bad. So all we can do now is we just say run blocking test, and then that fixes the problem, because run blocking test
always returns unit, right? There's no return type here, so you don't get that issue. The only thing at the moment is that it's experimental, so you do get this little warning, which you can suppress, as we all should, right? So suppress any warning that you get. So I've added that annotation to stop highlighting it, but if I were to run this, it will pretty much... Huh? Oh boy. That's awkward. There was also, I remember seeing a test dispatcher somewhere. Yeah, this thing. Oh, there we go. So you have to use this test coroutine dispatcher, which integrates with run blocking test. So instead of unconfined, test coroutine dispatcher, like that. Is that how it works? No man, come on. What's the problem here? Oh, I think it's the delay that I have in there. It's messing it up. That's right. Yeah, there we go. So it passes. Right, as I mentioned, you really don't want delays in production code, so this should be fine. You won't have that problem because this will again just be calling some kind of retrofit service or whatever you use here instead of that delay. And for the test, you would also verify that you are calling that retrofit service correctly with the right data and stuff like that. But anywho, yeah, so for testing coroutines, you can probably change this back to unconfined. And yeah, it will work fine. So for testing something like this, again, you just use an unconfined dispatcher to pass into the constructor. And then, yeah, when you need to call a suspend function, just use run blocking test. And you shouldn't have any issues. If you do need to do more complicated stuff, they have this whole page dedicated to testing with coroutines, and they have a lot more crazy samples that you can test with. And for testing the view model, I think it will also be really straightforward. Let's try to do that quickly. Private view model coroutines, and then we have a setup again. But now what I need to do is I need to do something similar with the constructor, which takes in the repo. If I can spell it all, wow. And then we of course need an empty constructor, which the view model provider stuff will call when it's instantiated. Anyway, so in the test we'll just say view model equals coroutine view model, and we'll pass in a mock repo, and I don't think I have the Mockito. No. Please hold. I need to try and remember how to use Mockito, how to add it. Let's just go with this, I don't know. Stop. Wow, what is that notation? Yeah, I should probably do a testing video at some point as well, because testing is obviously very important.
synchronize, please. So what you would do is, when it stops freezing, I think the convention is to say mock and then the name of the thing. Like that, you say it's a mock repo, and then, oops, loss. And you say, Mockito, please initialize the mocks in this class. So it will set that field for you. And then inside here, we just pass in the mock repo now. Like that. So, where was it? So my data is fetched in the constructor, so you can just say test construction fetches data, whatever. So we'll probably need to mock the repo here. When fetch data. Oh, now this is a suspend function again, which is a bit annoying. So you need to wrap it in the run blocking thing or run blocking test. But we say whenever a fetch data is called, then return mock data like that. So now we shouldn't expect hello Android anymore, but we should expect it to say mock data. So here it's called from the constructor, so I don't need to call it separately. But I would just say verify, for example, that repo mock repo dot fetch data is called. Let's see if this will work. Oh. How do we do this normally? Because interesting. Because the scope now is trying to default to the main here, but it apparently doesn't exist. I don't remember ever having to deal with this. But then what you can say, you can set the main dispatcher to unconfined. Firebase update. Yeah, there we. Oh wait. Oh, is it because we use rubber electric? Probably. Yeah, this is a pain, but it ends up. Okay, I don't want to go and add rubber electric and everything now because that's just going to get carried away. But essentially, what your test would look like, it would be very straightforward because you wouldn't really have to worry about any of this stuff. As I say, at work we use rubber electric, so that wouldn't be a problem of the setting the main, because I don't remember ever having to do that. But then you can just literally run your test like there was no coroutines in it, basically, in like as if it was in a synchronous fashion, where when you are constructing it, it will just fetch the data from the repo and then it will update the live data. So inside here, I would just have want to verify that it interacts with the repo and then updates live data. What is happening? Updates live data. And then inside here, I would just say assert equals, what was it? Mock data. View model dot result dot value. Yes, import it, please. So you would just say, yeah, you can just basically pretend like there is no context switching and things like that, where it's just synchronous. So I'm fetching from the repo and then I'm updating. So
I would verify that it's been updated. The live data's value there. Again, well, not really again, but also you should note that it's not good to do stuff like this in the constructor actually, because it adds weird side effects. So I would say like on create or something like this, where I would move all of my initialization into. And then here as well, it also is a lot more clear because now you have to say viewModel.onCreate specifically or explicitly, so you can see that, okay, I'm creating it and then I must fetch the data. So I would obviously just need to make sure that I call that onCreate. And then we go and do the work there. You should, another pro tip, I guess, is just, yeah, not to do anything inside constructors because of side effects. We actually had to deal with a problem like that recently, where the constructor ended up throwing an exception because of whatever reason, and then we fixed it and we couldn't really test it because it was all old code that's like mangled and not testable. But yeah, don't do anything in your constructors, just set fields, because otherwise you can have a tough time testing it. And yeah, the view model test would basically look like this. I would be pretty happy with this, where you just mock out the repo to return some data, and yeah, you just say when onCreate is called. Oh, this would obviously not be that anymore. My settings are all weird. Test onCreate. When I call onCreate, I must make sure that the repo is being called. And when I call onCreate, I must check that I am setting the value on the live data to this mock thing that the repo returned. As I mentioned, yeah, it fails now because I'm not using RoboElectric, so it can't find the main loop and what stuff. But this test should in theory work. Let's leave it up to that, shall we, in theory. I will, of course, this is all on my GitHub project, so I will commit working code that you can check out if you are actually interested in seeing the rest of this. Let me just find the link for you quickly. So it looks, this is what it looks like. Not very exciting, but once I've committed it, you'll see over here the new folder that's coroutines that I added, and then I will fix those tests. Probably end up doing RoboElectric, I'm not really sure yet. Yeah, and pushing to master because that's how we roll. Not really caring about anything, just doing it cowboy style. Okay, I think that's all I've got for sort of introduction to coroutines, even though it's been an hour and a half of me rambling on. Hopefully the YouTube video that I edit will be a lot shorter than that. But I don't know if there's anything that I've missed out on. If anyone has questions about coroutines or anything in general, maybe I can give my 2 cents on that. Yeah, so again, just remember to inject your dispatcher so you can test the class easy. And then you would have a convenience constructor, or you would have a factory class, that hurts me to say, or you would again use something like Dagger that would provide your dispatcher for you, so you wouldn't need this other convenience thing at all. But anyway, that's a whole different topic. I think I'm basically happy with this. Again, I really think it is a lot more readable and easy to see what is happening than if you were to use like async tasks. Again, also I can't comment on RX because I haven't used it, but it's definitely a lot easier and simpler than using async task because it all happens linearly. It's all happening in one place. It's just a method call, so you can see, okay, I'm fetching from the repo and I'm updating the UI here, and I'm doing this and I'm doing this. It's a lot easier to follow. Again, at work, we've abstracted it quite a lot. We have base async tasks, and then there's each task has a task factory, so you can test stuff properly. And then the task factories implement interfaces, and then there's generics involved, because the task factories can take in a generic progress listener and stuff for the tests or for the tasks. And there's one more thing. I was going to say something else, but and often people will abstract it even more when you have your async task. They like to abstract the do in background part to a callable. So then you have a callable and a callable factory, and a task and a task factory and a task factory interface. And then you just end up using the task factory in the view model. And it's just so many classes, and it's all over the place, man, to just to do a service call or something and to update the UI. So for me, this is a lot easier. Let's get rid of that. But we just say I'm on the view model scope, launching a coroutine, fetch the data, and we're still on the main thread here, so we can just update the UI without worrying. And this is super nice, because you go to the repo, and the repo is responsible for switching to a different context to make it what they call main safe. It's safe to call this method from the main thread, or not really main thread, from the main context, because it's switching itself in here. Yeah, I think that's all. I can't really think of anything else. Just a lot of libraries these days come out with coroutine support, which is pretty awesome. Especially Retrofit, where Retrofit, I think I've got an example in here actually. In my, not that one. Okay, I don't have an example, but if you were using Retrofit, you could just say that this is a suspend function in your Retrofit service, and then you wouldn't have a call anymore because you don't need to say execute. So one of the options would be to make it look like this. We just return your response object, whatever that might be, like deserialized from JSON. And yeah, then you get that back and you can just work with it straight away. The problem with this though is if you just return it straight, is that it will throw an exception if the service fails. So if you're not handling it, obviously the app will crash because, yeah, there's an unhandled exception. So an alternative thing you can do is you can just say, oh my word, what was that? Response. You can wrap it in a response object like that. Yeah, the retrofit response. Now this won't throw an exception anymore, but you can then check, close this. You can then go and inspect this response and you can, where's the fields? Yeah, so there's a few methods on that response thing where you can say, give me the status code, like was it status 200 or 401 or something, a message, and there's a convenience thing, is successful, which just checks if it's, you know, a 200 response. So I would probably prefer to do this where you wrap it in a response instead of that, because then someone might forget to add a try catch and then your app crashes when the service fails. I'm just going to revert this because it will break my existing stuff. But yeah, it's awesome because a lot of libraries will add coroutine support to make your life easy, and it's just a lot more pleasant to work with, I found. There's another topic that I have in my head, but I'm not sure if I should go into now or another time, because it's not really an introduction anymore. It's just more of an advanced thing. I think I shall take a break quickly. If anyone has an opinion on that, like should I do that slightly more advanced thing quickly or not, or leave it for another day, just let me know. But I shall be right back in 5 minutes, if that, probably less. Thanks for watching up until now. Appreciate it. Hope you'll stick around. But yeah, see you shortly. I don't know if we still have anyone here. Cool. Well, it's almost 6 p.m. already. Time flies. Okay, I think I'll show off one last little trick that I recently found out and was very amazed, and it made me warm and fuzzy. So let's... should I make it a new file? I mean, it's not really... Okay, let's just say third-party stuff. So say if you have, and this is pretty much the scenario that I was working with, if you have a third-party library that is doing stuff, but it's not coroutine friendly yet, how can we make it coroutine friendly? Specifically, if it's doing like a service call for you and it uses a callback mechanism, which is really annoying. But how can we convert that callback mechanism into just a suspend function, which you just call normally without having to pass in callbacks and stuff? Luckily, it is very possible and it's pretty awesome. So I'll just show that quickly, and then we can pretty much be done. I don't know if anyone is still here, but oh well, I'll just talk to the wall. It's also spring here in South Africa, so it's getting a bit warm these days. Okay, so in this file, I just want to close all this other rubbish. In this file, I'm going to pretend like this is the third-party SDK that I'm interacting with. So let's just say we have a function, just the simplest example. So I'm just going to say do third-party party stuff, right? And again, this is not coroutine friendly. It's, for example, it could be a Java library, but I'm not going to write Java. So it's a function call, but there is some kind of listener involved. So say there is a third-party. No. Okay, sorry, I must do this real quick. It's really annoying me. There is this setting called camel humps or something. No, is it one word? Yeah, use camel humps words. So I really like to enable that, and then untick that, because now if I press Control backspace, it just backspaces a word instead of the whole thing. Anyway, third-party callback. And in here we have like a on success and on error. And we have some data that does an int and maybe a message. So when you're calling this third party, hey man, what is RU model? I'm not sure what that means. Sorry about that. But so you have a third-party function where you take in the callback, like that, and this will be doing its own thing, right? Again, it's a third-party library, so it'll be doing maybe an async task, and then it'll invoke the callback later on. So let me just write another async task, which hurts me. Async task, whatever, I don't care. .execute, and we have a do in background, and then we have a on post execute. Whoops. So in the background, this will be again what the SDK is doing. So I'll just say it takes 2 seconds to do what it needs to. And then how do I return void? Does that even make sense? Unit. Okay. So the return type, I'll just say Boolean, like, was it successful, basically. Return true, as in this SDK call worked. And on post execute, this is where the listener would be called. So I'll say if result is true, because it's nullable. I'll say callback dot on success, else callback dot on error, explosion, something like that. And the data we would get back is just some number, so whatever. But this would all be in a third-party library, right? You don't have control over this code. You can't change it because you are just using it, and you're forced to use it by your company or whatever it might be. And how can we change this horrible thing into coroutines? Because if I were to go back to my activity and I have to call that thing, do third-party stuff, we then have to pass in this listener thing now. And it just clutters up the code so much. Because now, again, we have the situation where it's really hard to read what's going on. Here you might display a toast or something. Message toast dot a short one. So when we get an error, we show a message, and here we might say start activity with the data that we get back. Again, this is horrible because callbacks are not great to work with, and it's all over the place. It's not just linear, again, in a fashion we can read. But now how can we actually go and change this? Well, we can basically do that. Just, hey, Cybershark, what's up? What's up? How's it going on a Friday? So I don't know if you just joined, but I'm basically saying how can we adapt a third-party library that we don't have control over, that doesn't use coroutines, that has callbacks, into a coroutine friendly fashion. So I have this this demo class. Let me just actually split it so we can see. Right, assuming this code was out of my control, we can actually sort of write a nice intermediary function where I can say do third party. Sorry, I'm just getting messages on my phone distracting me. Do third parties. What can I call it? That's not too weird. Suspend or something. I don't know. I'm horrible at naming. No, all good, thanks, all good. In South Africa, we had a public holiday yesterday, so I took today off as leave. So I'm going to have a nice 4-day weekend, which is amazing. But so this is going to be a suspend function because that's the goal. We wanted to use it with a coroutine friendly fashion, and this will just end up calling the do third party thing, right? And it will in here. Gosh, I hate callbacks so much. This method itself will be implementing the callbacks, and I just need to try to remember how I did that. But what we can say here now, we'll want to return something. So let's just return the data. So return an int, but it's nullable. So if it's an error, then we return null. Really not great, but it'll work for now. So what the key thing here that we have is, what's it called? Suspend Co Routine. Yeah, that's the magic I'm looking for. And you wrap this whole lovely thing, I think, inside there, and it can return something. So I'll just say it's an int that I'm returning. Result like that, and finally I'll return that return result. And finally, I'm just gonna finish writing this quickly. Continue. continuation. Is that how you spell it? I'm not really sure. Yeah, long weekends are sick, man. Especially at work, I've been feeling like just like it's the same every day, so I needed a bit of a break. So we have this magical continuation thing, and in the listener, I'm going to say continuation.resume. Resume with data. And when we get an error, I just resume with null to signify that we had an error. And this is basically the core thing that we can use to convert this ugly callback code that is in the third-party library, right? We have to pass in this. And we can now use it as a suspending function where there's no more callbacks. It just returns the result straight from that function, which is really nice. I was really happy when I got this working for the first time on the work things. And now, instead of having this whole other thing over here, let me just do it in the view model where I have access to the scope thing. I would just say, again, view model scope.launch, because we need to be in a coroutine. And here I can now just call this do third party thing. And we get the result back, result back from that. And then you can say if result is not, I can't type. Here we would start activity like we did before, else, show toast to say that it failed. And I don't know if this topic is too niche or too crazy, but this, yeah, it allowed me to convert this callback code in the third-party library to a suspending function. Yeah, Firebase, yeah, callbacks. Yeah, pretty much for Firebase, you can do something similar. But so let me just explain what's going on here, right? We marked it as a suspending function because this suspend coroutine is a suspending function, right? So that justifies why we need to do that. And when you call this magical suspend coroutine thing, right? Let's just sort of ignore everything in between. When we call this suspend coroutine, it's literally gonna just pause the thread. If you think about this whole running through this method as a thread, it's just going to pause it and say, just hold on. Don't return just yet, right? It's not going to carry on with this method until returning until you say it can, right? So as soon as you come in this method, let's just something like that. So as soon as you call this method, it will print out starting, which is expected. But then as soon as it hits this suspend coroutine thing, it's going to stop. And you will not see this message straight away, right? Because I added a 2-second delay into this async task. So you will not see this for 2 seconds. And inside here, I'm calling the third-party library and passing in my own callback. And when the callback finishes, which is the third party saying, cool, I'm done, here's your result. If it was a successful response, I say continuation, which is this thing that you get in the Lambda for suspend coroutine. I wonder if I can go in here. Right? So if we take a look at the definition, suspend coroutine, it's a suspending function which takes in a Lambda. It takes in a Lambda, and that Lambda itself takes in this continuation object and just returns nothing. So in our Lambda here, we get this continuation object. And we say continuation.resume when we get the result. So in success, I say resume with this data. And on an error, I say resume with null to signify that there was something wrong. And only once we call resume will we carry on past this point, past this Lambda here. So then it will continue and it will return from this function and it will, carry on with this view model method. So that made me really happy because, I was using a third-party library, which I didn't have control over. They were using callbacks only, and I really wanted to use coroutine goodness. So I did something very similar where I just basically implemented sort of an adapter kind of function where it converts the callback to this suspending function, which is really nice. I wonder if I can just run this to show that it works. I mean, it should be fine. So let's just print out here success, and then we print out the result. Otherwise we can say error, like it failed. I'm hoping this should work. I can't remember what I've changed since I last ran the app. But I see red. Why is it red? Android test. Okay. So let's run this app again and open up Logcat. Actually, I'll just increase the delay to 5 seconds so it's easier to see. But what I'm expecting to happen is when I click on this coroutines item, right, the view model is going to go in here and we're going to call the suspending function. And we'll immediately see starting as soon as we click on the button, and then 5 seconds later it will say returning, and then it will print out success, because it's always a success at the moment. So 5 seconds later it will say returning, and then it will say success with a 1, 2, 3. I love that I'm so confident about this, but I'm only kind of 50% sure that it's not going to crash. But it is here. So if you watch Logcat over here, coroutines, immediately says starting, we wait 5 seconds. Yes, and then it says returning, and then we continue in the view model scope here to process the result. So that is how you can convert a callback mechanism thing to use suspending functions, which makes life a lot easier to call. Because if you remember previously, it looked like this, where you call a third-party library and now you must pass in a callback implementation, and yeah, again, not very nice to look at. But the suspend function version is nice because it's literally just one function call which returns an object which you can use straight away. And remember again that this will be on the main thread, hopefully. Yes, yeah, because post execute will be on the main thread, which invokes some success on the main thread and stuff. Yeah, so it's all main safe as well. Let's just print that out to make sure, because I don't want to lie to you. Yes, you can use breakpoints, but I don't. So coroutines immediately prints out starting. 5 seconds later, yes, and we do indeed print out main thread. So we can carry on updating the UI from here without having to worry about which thread I'm on and switching and horrible things like that. Okay, now that is pretty much all that I had to to chat about for coroutines. I don't know if you guys have any other questions or messages. Otherwise, just chilling almost dinner time for me. Does wrapping the callback in with context work as well? How do you mean exactly? So you mean at the top here? Or do you mean this version? Yup, to which one? Sorry, I kind of made it ambiguous. The top code or the activity code? Okay, the top one. So what, with context in here, like that? What is happening? Oh man. But I don't... So I don't, if this is what you're asking about putting it in here, where you would say main, and like that. Oh, without the suspend, okay. No, it wouldn't. Okay, let me just, I'll do that quickly. So you basically kind of want to duplicate it and with context. Oops. So the problem is that, yeah, this won't work because this third-party thing is still doing its own threading stuff, right? It's still, if you look at the function on the side, it's starting its own async task. So this with context stuff isn't gonna know, and it's not gonna wait for it to magically finish, because again, it's not coroutine friendly. So the third-party library just does its own thing. And this is fine because then over here you would have switched to the IO context at this point, meaning you're calling this third-party method from a background already, but it's just going to still go ahead and start an async task and switch to the async task executor or whatever. So yeah, it won't work. Basically, it's going to return from this method straight away, and it's not going to wait for the result to come back. The suspend coroutine is pretty key here because, yeah, we're telling it to just, oh, why can't you uncomment that? Yeah, no, it doesn't block. Yeah, so the suspend coroutine will literally stop the method from returning, and you can still carry on doing stuff in the lambda of suspend coroutine. And from inside there, you can say continuation.resume, and then it will carry on with the rest of the thread. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense. This is definitely more of an advanced thing that you may or may not need. It's not an everyday kind of thing. But I just found it really interesting, and I can just actually simplify that to just return the result of nice, and I can get rid of that. Man, Kotlin is great. It's something you may need if you have code that you can't change, but you want it to be coroutine friendly. You can use the suspend coroutine thing. Very nice. Okay, I think I'm pretty much done. How long? It's been 2 hours. Jeez, that's crazy. 2 hours. I think I am done. I shall update these or make it work properly, separate it into different files, and put it on my GitHub page. 1 second. Not on the page itself, but on the repo. So if you're interested in checking out this code at some point, you can. It's obviously not available yet. Probably by the end of the day or something. Yeah, you're welcome, man. Glad to help out. I don't know if you have any other things you want to chat about. Otherwise, I'll just go ahead and end the stream for the day. It's been cool chatting a bit and embracing the Kotlin awesomeness. Yeah, I should probably add a lot more user-friendly, demo-friendly code, because coroutines activity is like what, and then just showing a random message in the thing. I'll make this a lot more beautiful, don't worry. But I kind of just wanted to do the minimum for this demo to focus on coroutines. Yeah. Cool. As I said at the start, I'm gonna actually edit this this 2-hour stream into a YouTube video, hopefully on coroutine basics. Hopefully I have decent enough content to edit this video, or to edit the stream into a video, so you can check that out if you want a shorter, condensed version. Okay, yeah. Thanks for the videos. Legit, I have to learn everything alone, so it helps. Okay. No, I'm always glad if I'm able to help someone. So, have a good weekend as well yourself. I have a Discord server, which I see you already on, which is great. But anyone else, there should be a link in the description. Can't really see, I don't know how this works. Yeah, there's a link to my Discord server, which is kind of dead at the moment, so please come by and chat a bit, talk about anything, Android, not Android, any kind of nonsense, that would be great. But yeah. No, thanks Cybershock, appreciate it, appreciate your messages, and glad I could help there. So enjoy your weekend as well, have a good one. But yeah, I think I'm going to end here, so thanks for watching. Anyone who is still here at this point, well done. Anyone who stopped by for a few seconds, a few minutes, thank you very much. But enjoy the weekend, enjoy Kotlin, and enjoy coroutines, and enjoy Android as well. Thanks everyone, and cheers for now. Have a good one.